Welcome, heroes! So I'm doing something a little bit different today. I wanted to try my shot at Dragonball Z Theories. Essentially talking about kind of like little interesting aspects that you might not have thought about before, and, you know, a little background information or research and that kind of thing. And all the while I'll be playing a little bit of Mugen in the background. In particular, I'm going to be covering the idea of ki and chakra. More importantly, the connection between the colors. Now, you might be wondering, like, you know, ki and chakra, those are two totally different things. Ki is DBZ and chakra is Naruto, right? Well, why don't we go ahead in more detail about what each one is. So, what is ki? Ki, chi, or energy and such is pretty much, the idea behind it is it's kind of the driving force, energy. It's something that allows us to do things. That's as it's described in the Dragon Ball Z universe, is essentially the force that they use for all of their techniques and whatnot. It's also used in such real-life martial arts such as Kung Fu and Tai Chi. While it's not necessarily like, oh, energy is real and whatnot, but it's more or less the belief of using your inner chi to bring out your full potential and whatnot. You know, to punch harder and pursue through things. They actually do accomplish very amazing things with this theory behind it, so there might be something to it, who knows. But anyways, so what is chakra? Chakra is more of like Indian or originated. It's kind of their ideals on spiritual energy, and more specifically that the body has 7 specific points of chakra, which drives what they do, what they're capable of, and a lot of very interesting things. So it's not necessarily like the idea that we all have 1 chakra, but that we all have 7, although from what I've been able to tell, there's many other like variants on the theory, like 8 or 9 chakras, but the one I'm going to be using is more of the commonplace one, the idea of 7 chakras, which, funnily enough, is the same amount of colors that is like mostly portrayed in a rainbow. Not like, you know, there's many colors in the rainbow, but there are 7 primary colors that are, you know, visible in that spectrum, which makes it very interesting for some of the things that we have. So the most common picture that I reference is this one here. So I've been looking through Google Images to find, you know, various comparisons, as you can see here and here. But essentially, a lot of them kind of revolve around the same concept. Essentially, that there's chakra in the crown, the third eye, the throat, the heart, the navel, the sacral, and the root. Essentially, each one involves something very specific to that region. So then, how do they relate? So, what I'm going to do is pull reference material specifically from the DBZ animated series, because after all, a lot of the manga isn't necessarily colored. Some of it is, but the animated series generally has everything full detailed and whatnot. So, the first thing I'm going to look at is the Kamehameha, as it's, you know, the most well-known ki attack from throughout the series. This attack is mostly light blue. One could think that, oh, this is because it's, you know, purity and it's the good guy color. But Cell also uses the Kamehameha at the same relative color. And also the color changes to yellow sometimes, depending upon who throws it, maybe Super Saiyan, and it's varied. But one thing that I like to point out is that this attack is like the most pronounced attack, if you think about it. So when somebody throws a Kamehameha, they're actually going, they pronounce every single syllable, especially when they're trying to do it to a greater extent. In fact, the stronger that they want, the more that they pronounce each individual syllable for the attack, almost like drive the power into it. On top of that, from what I've been able to tell, it's been a couple, not very much, but a couple of times when this attack is thrown by multiple characters at once, and the attack actually combines together and makes almost an even more powerful version of the attack. Almost like it combines well together with each other. Now, why do I mention all these specific things? Well, the chakra for the throat, or I'm going to pronounce this very terribly, the Vishada. I'll just stick with the English pronunciation. But specifically, this is a chakra that is, it is the power of communication. It is is driven by willpower, creativity, speech. Essentially, when you communicate with others, this is kind of like your chakra that's driven from it. I'm going to be butchering some of these theories a little bit, but that's just kind of my mental state. I don't have a very good throat chakra. Essentially, though, what I find as a very interesting connection is that since the Kamehameha is very vocally driven, it's also light blue, and the throat chakra is also light blue. Almost like they kind of go together in a way. Not to say that this is the reason why it's light blue, but it does seem interesting. So next we have the Final Flash, Super Saiyan attacks, and the general ki barrages, a lot of which tend to be yellow. Now, as you guys know, Super Saiyan is driven by, essentially unlocked in a Pure Saiyan. By Pure Saiyan, I mean pure at heart. But from what I could tell, more often than not, it is pushed over the edge through anger. As Goku, when he became Super Saiyan, he saw his best friend die and was just angry with Frieza. And it wasn't completely clear, but Vegeta was just angry with himself, trying to surpass Goku until he eventually was capable of being a bit whitey. But yeah, essentially, also like Vegeta's Final Flash, it could be described as a because it's kind of like his biggest attack. It's just all of his anger built up and thrown into this attack. Just so much anger in this attack, which is I find very interesting. It's kind of like the epitome of all of his anger at Goku, wanting to surpass him almost. But there's more to it. But essentially, a lot of what has been shown, also as I said, the ki barrage that Vegeta does, is also usually he wants that guy to just go away and die. So he throws everything he has into this barrage of attacks, and all this is driven by anger, in a way. So in terms of chakra, the colored yellow is associated with the navel, essentially or solar plexus, I think is the better one to describe it, the solar plexus. So this one is what is most interesting about this is it's driven by the emotion of anger. It also has other aspects to it, but that is the main connection that I have with that. Each individual chakra is controlled by different emotions, like power consciousness, communication, insight, love, anger, desire, and fear, with the solar plexus being driven by anger. And so that's kind of the connection I make there, is that more often than not when somebody's getting over emotional and whatnot, a lot of times that the aura that is shown, or when they're getting angry at their opponent, or losing their self-control, it shows their ki seems to be yellow. So that's kind of the connection I make there, is that those yellow keys tend to be kind of wild, out of control, and just overpowered, and it's almost like it's very fitting to have it connected with the solar plexus. So next I wanted to look at the psychic powers that are not very commonly, but a few times are shown in the DBZ universe. More often than not when you have the crazy, weird, psychic character. But when these are shown, they're more often shown with some kind of blue or dark blue color, as you can see with General Blue's using his telekinesis, or Chaozu, or even Gildo when he was like locking Krillin and Gohan with his Mind Freeze technique. They always show to have a blue, dark blue aura about them with the attack. Although with Gildo's Mind Freeze, they also had a orange color surrounding them. Which, interesting thing to point out there is when Gildo was young, he was a bit of a misfit, doing things like flipping girls' skirts with his telekinesis and whatnot. And just an interesting thing to point out is that the orange aura in Chakra is related to, well, it's essentially related with desire, sexuality, and whatnot, which kind of makes you wonder what the mind bind technique was originally for. I'll just leave that to your imagination. But anyway, so these attacks usually are dark blue, and dark blue in Chakra is often associated with the chakra centered around the third eye, which is associated a lot of times with like potential psychic ability, insight, psychic awareness. You get what I'm going at with here. Essentially, the psychic nature of people, which is why I feel it is very fitting for it to be blue, because those two really, connect together. It's the third eye, it's blue, so it kind of fits. So the next color I want to go on is purples. Namely, I wanted to talk about Vegeta and his Gallic Gun. So there's not too much like in the origin of how this technique is about or whatnot. But one thing that I find interesting is that when the Gallic Gun is used, or at least as you can see in this image, he flies up really high, puts his hands like close to his chest but still above his head, as he's kind of like sideways, and he draws all the energy out and then throws it. And the interesting thing about the chakra of the crown, while it's mostly about enlightenment, inspiration, the higher consciousness, essentially the higher power, it comes from the head. You get what I'm saying? It's essentially the idea of almost like divinity, in a way, but it comes from a higher self. It's above him. I don't know. It seems to fit in that aspect. It's just the fact that the way he draws the energy in for the attack. However, another thing which I find interesting about it is that Vegeta really, at the time, was full of himself. He believed himself to be the strongest Saiyan, and it was his divine right, or, well, not divine right, he didn't really say that. He was essentially the Prince of all Saiyans, so, it was his, he was the best Saiyan, so he was a bit full of himself, which I feel kind of fits in, with that one, just because it's, related to higher understanding, the, power, well, the higher consciousness, just being full of, well, I wouldn't say full of themselves. I don't know, it's kind of a weird one. But the thing that I find more interesting is the fact that after that fight with Goku, Vegeta's, a lot of his key attacks shifted in color. Like, there wasn't much purple that he would actually shoot. The Gallic Gun was his, purple attack, but it would switch to yellow. And then eventually he started doing the Final Flash and the Big Bang, which were yellow and blue. But the main thing that I would like to look at is the fact that when he was defeated, he started to getting, after Frieza was defeated, he started to have a more desire to surpass Goku. It was to the point where it was just driving him with anger. And it's just, I feel like it's almost as if like his purpose shifted. As such, a lot of his key attacks and his techniques and whatnot shifted as well. Switching from this, like, being full of himself to being, like, driven by anger and, like, this desire, willpower to just, like, surpass Goku. So, it fits in the aspect of his color, or his ki, changing in that way. So I don't know if necessarily the purple fits. It's kind of a weird one. It's one of the areas where this theory kind of falls apart. But the fact that his ki shifted is an interesting one. The last color I wanted to look at was red. Now, the weird thing is that red was it was used in Frieza's attacks sometimes, but it's shifted between red and pink. So I don't know if that was just a coloration issue or if that his ki was actually pink, but I remember it as red, and I feel like it's red in color. At least a lot of his attacks were, especially when it wasn't so bright or whatnot. So the main thing that a lot of times that is connected with the red ki is usually evil, but not necessarily, which is why I actually kind of like this theory behind the attacks. Because specifically, while red is supposedly connected to evil, the Kaioken definitely wasn't evil. I mean, it came from the Kais, and it was just mostly about bringing out your inner energy. So the thing that I like to look at is the actual chakra description for red. So red the color of red originates, or at least the red chakra originates from the root. Essentially, it is described as the survival instincts, the drive of security, your primal energy. It is driven by the emotion of fear. It's your survival instinct. It is essentially the most raw chakra of a human, and this is where I connected with Frieza. Now, Frieza, of all the villains, was really evil. He just enjoyed making people suffer and destroying their planets and expanding his empire for no other reason than to really just expand his empire. And I'm pretty sure if he was immortal, he would just, continue to find other reasons to make people fear him. And the way I connect these two is the fact that that's very, he's a very instinctual person. He wants people to fear him and just kill people when they defy him just because, and he's just very cruel in that aspect. He just loves to divulge on his instinct to kill. Now, where the Kaioken differs is better to describe what the Kaioken is. Now, they don't really go into detail in the comic or the anime about how the Kaioken specifically works. They just say that it enhances your ki. However, after doing some research into the Kaioken, I found that there are some interesting qualities that might have some other techniques from other animes and also reality that kind of relate. Because the way the Kaioken works is that it enhances your ability, but it drives your body to its limit. Now, what this reminds me of is Rock Lee's attack, where he would activate his chakra gates and essentially release limiters on his body to increase his capability. But this, of course, would impact his body because he's doing things well beyond what he should be doing. Essentially releasing mental limiters that would otherwise prohibit him from doing, better than what he could already do. In reality, there is a thing that happens, and you hear about it sometimes when you hear about a mother who lifts her car in order to save her child from underneath, or somebody who pushes a boulder that was otherwise going to crush them. Essentially, when we're driven to this fight or flight reaction, and just this do or die, we get this surge of strength where we far surpass our own physical limitations in order to survive. But of course, we're using much more strength than we should be using, or our body normally limits us from using. As such, we end up hurting ourselves. So it's my belief that the Kaioken is something along those lines. Essentially, what I'm this is just my opinion, but something along the lines is that I assume that what he's doing is he's overcoming his body's limits to surpass his normal capacity, as such get a huge boost in strength and speed and energy. but at a cost of hurting himself. But that then makes sense with this chakra theory then, because it would make sense that it would be red, as he's essentially, tapping into that primal energy, essentially, this energy that is usually not accessible due to the fact that your body's limiting yourself. That's what I would like to believe, at least, with that attack, why it's like, red and whatnot. And it's personally my favorite in terms of this theory about like how it could potentially work. And it also makes a lot more sense than like saying it's evil. Of course, there's other theories that it could be connected to. Maybe it's like driven by like fire, which fire is red, or maybe it's just the color he chose. But anyways, that is essentially my theory on the comparison of chakra. But anyways, that is my theory on the comparison of chakra colors and ki attacks. It's not that I necessarily believe that this is like how it was, like all the ki attacks are driven specifically by chakra colors. I mean, there could be a lot of reasons why they're chosen. Maybe the Kamehameha was blue just because of level of purity, or maybe the Frieza's chakras, or not chakra, ki. Frieza's ki was red because he was evil. That could be also theory, or maybe that's just the colors that he picked because he liked the colors. I just believe that it might be potential that the colors of the ki attacks might have some influence with essentially some chakra theories, or potentially there might have been chakra theories that influence how that community or culture viewed certain colors. Who knows? This is just, as I said, a theory, so it's it's not fact or anything like that. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. So that was my first tackle at a theory. It is definitely very difficult, and there's a lot of research that I had to do into like making sure certain things work certain ways. But let me know if you guys like that, and if you'd like me to try other theories. Like, I could do more like in-depth about how the Kaioken works, or how it could work. I could also do like certain comparisons, like character comparisons, like Vegeta versus Goku, or Superman versus Goku, or one of those type deals. I could also go into what-if scenarios, like say if this person died, how would that affect the story? Those kinds of things, if you guys would like to see me do more theories. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, throw us a like. It always helps out a lot and shows me that you guys were interested. Also, if you guys are new to the channel and like to see more things like this in the future, throw us a sub and join the heroes. Anyways, guys, it's been Zeshin of HeroesNFools, and I'll see you all next time. Take care and goodbye.